Okay, as the title said, Johnny's got a problem. Let's get right into it.
People like Andrew Tate, who, I don't think is a good example of masculinity. This guy seems very impulsive, and he seems very misogynistic. He does not seem to like women. In fact, he seems to want to harm them. Maybe he's threatened by them. I don't know. But his behaviors certainly are not in keeping with healthy masculinity. But a whole generation of young men look to him like he is their savior.
Okay, complete and total BS. It can't be allowed to stand. This has got to stop. These are supposedly men that are in the manosphere spaces that are repeating completely, totally cartoonish, hysterical, unfounded, false smear accusations against other men. And it's absolutely got to stop. Mr. Griffin here says earlier in his video that we have to turn this thing around, talking about the feminist paradigm and the anti-male rhetoric, zeitgeist, etc. Well, you won't be doing it, John. You're not doing it with this at all. You're adding fuel to the fire. So let's get right into it. I put a long comment. This is my comment right here. You can, for the sake of brevity, I'm not going to read it all. You can stop the video and read it all. He simply replies to me, I'm not a fan of men who traffic children. I put a lot of detail in here about Andrew Tate, and that's all he has to say. This is so low IQ. Before I started this clip up here, he started to say that how men are being dumbed down and something cartoonish and stupid and brutish that put women in a superior position and makes them feel safe. Well, that's exactly what you did here, John. I gave you a lot of detail, and you just come out with a 75 IQ name-calling, basically, as a rebuttal, and don't even get into it. So I'm going to rebut it even more here. I'm going to send this on to Mr. Griffin. See what he has to say. I'd like these men to retract their statements and back it up. This is not a defense of Andrew Tate in any way, shape, or form. As I said in my comment here, I find a lot of things about Andrew Tate quite cringe, off-putting. But there's also other things that I found about Tate that are pretty positive. As I put in here, he is definitely a breath of fresh air compared to the decades of depictions that we've had about masculinity that Mr. Griffin seems to take umbrage with, of these soyish, supplicating, groveling manginas that have been depicted in movies and TV programs and commercials, as I said, for decades. At least that's not Tate. He might be rather bombastic. He's rather materialistic. He's a braggart. All things that don't appeal to me in any way, shape, or form. He says in here also that a generation of young men have looked at him as like what, an idol or the end-all be-all or something as such. But I'm sure there's some that have. I wouldn't say that at all. That's once again, that's selling these kids real short. They looked at his funny memes. They looked at him calling out these women and calling them bees and hoes, which massive percentage of them are. They're proud of it. They call themselves that. This isn't putting a label on them. This is recognizing what they're proud of and how they advertise themselves. And the kids find it funny, and they have been swimming in a sea of gynocentrism. Especially these kids are going to public schools. They've seen the bad behavior first time, the emasculation, the mocking, the looking down, the talking down to them from their moms, their sisters, their girlfriends, the other girls at school, and etc. And they're starting to push back a little bit. It's not going to be perfect. We're in an extreme situation. They're going to take extreme solutions. So it's not perfect. And to want to have, it seems like this sanitized, where you're going to fit in their box and react in a masculine way about how these feminists are going to tell you, which seems to be what this man is doing. I've seen a lot of this. This is why I'm making this video. This is very, very, very common. Yeah, we're going to talk, we're going to try to win women's favor and, talk about the toxic ways of modern feminists and how this is not a good thing, but we definitely don't want to be that Andrew Tate, all right? We definitely don't want to be so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so. Anyway, so let's get into it some more here. Candace Owens did several videos back in the day. You can go look at them. This is just one where she breaks down, and many people have done this, in detail. And she says the same things that I'm saying. She's not defending Tate as a whole. That's not the point here. The point is defending legal precedent, really. that if they can do this to him, and they've done this to many other men, which I'm going to get into here in a bit in this video, they can do it to you, and they are doing it to you. And it has to stop. She breaks down here. I think it's in this video. I didn't play the whole thing. I'm just putting it up for reference if anybody wants to look into it. It might be another video around this time because I think she did several of them. She has sat down with Tate on a couple occasions. So have many other people. So there's no reason for a guy like John not to know the details of this. They just have refused to look. That's what I put in my comment. You don't know anything about it. You just took mainstream feminist talking points, slandering a man with a very high profile, and just ran with it. And this is not masculinity in any way, shape, or form. If you want to turn this thing around, John, push back against gynocentrism. Without a doubt, gynocentrism, feminism, is an emotion-fueled, woke paradigm. And the counter to that is logic, stoicism, reason, justice. These are masculine principles. By you not adhering to these show that you really don't have any concept of masculinity at all. So Candace goes in here and shows you, of like right off the jump, how this thing whole started was these American girls that had come to Romania to hang out and party with Andrew and his brother, and then came up with this crap that they couldn't leave because their travel plans didn't work out. I can't remember all the details exactly. She breaks it down. Many others have broken it down in great detail. Their screenshots of their texts were exposed. They were put on blast on everybody. It's cartoonish that you would even claim that these guys are involved in trafficking. Now, if you search Andrew Tate, which I just did, but I didn't put it up here because it's not really worth it, anybody can make accusations, and that's what they do. This has become a modern paradigm of ruining people, especially men, is just to kill them through lawfare. You put out so many accusations out there, you make them defend themselves, you ruin their reputation, even if if it doesn't wash out in a court of law, doesn't matter, the damage is already done. Because I did put in a search engine other accusations. Supposedly he has other accusations of confinement and essay and other things of the such in England, that he's going to go to trial in 2026. For the sake of brevity, you can look into all that yourself and look onto both sides. I've seen him address those. I've seen many other people address them. I've seen his ex-girlfriends address them. To once again, going back to masculinity and logic and defense of justice, you can't really know in the minutia unless you were actually there, see the source documents, are in the trial, and many times even if you're not even if you are in the trial, you're still not going to know because they can do all kinds of legal maneuvers to impede exonerating evidence to come in on your behalf. So you still won't even know. But what you can do is back up and just say, does this actually make any sense at all? Does it make any sense at all? And especially, as I'm going to go on to show here, with this tsunami of false accusations that we have had, when it fits that same pattern, even going into jurisprudence, innocent until proven guilty, are we not adhering to that anymore? When you back up and take a look at it, would somebody be involved in this? These accusations came out after Tate had blown up to be the most Googled man on the planet a few years ago. This is a guy that has been trying to be a public persona going back for over 10 years. I think going back to 2012, 2013, 2014, when he first was getting on reality TV shows, making content all over the place. This is a guy that would be involved in what is trafficking? He literally, Tate himself has talked about that they were defining in his court cases that under trafficking is something that they use that they would call the lover boy method, where you basically seduce a woman and tell her things that she wants to hear, so she comes on her own volition into your orbit, and then through some kind of, it would seem, magic, mind F, she can't get loose because you've made her fall in love with her. This is what they're calling trafficking now. At the same time, women are strong and empowered, are free to do anything that they want, even more so than a man, but they're so weak and defenseless that you can mind F them through the lover boy method. This is on do your own research. Look up Tate talking about this. Look up many people talking about this. Reading from the source documents in Romania. These are the things that they've brought him up, saying that nobody said that he put chains onto any women, put them behind locked doors. This is not even close to being alleged if you look at it. This is what they're calling trafficking. If this is what's being called trafficking, we could make a case for maybe 75% of men telling something that's maybe not completely true and getting a woman to go for it so he could sleep with her would be trafficking. That would probably put John under this. John, in one of his recent videos, was talking about all this online dating that he had done recently and going up against encountering some pretty unhinged women. And I'm quite sure that you could go to these women after he broke it off with him. One of them, he had to change all of his contact information because he thought she was so unhinged. And I believe, if I remember correctly, he said that she worked for the Justice Department as a federal attorney, something as such, that she could very easily use the lover boy method on John. That she thought this was going to happen and that was going to happen, but he didn't make it happen. But John says that Andrew Tate, is trafficking in children. Y'all get it why I'm making this video? This is really, really suspect that somebody would say this about another man that could even apply to him. He didn't traffic in children, but he seduced a woman. That these days could fall under SA. Just like in Great Britain, of how they have made it retroactive SA, that if she regrets her hookup with you and was inebriated at the time, she's got a case against you now. So you can go and see how Candace breaks this all down. You can see how Tate's got into it with Tucker Carlson, Patrick Bet-David. He's been on several women's podcasts breaking it all down. And getting back to looking at the macro sense, I kind of got off that, didn't finish that up. Here's a guy that has a massive public profile that is literally drugging these girls, stealing their passports, keeping up in locked basements, and making them do webcam services. Didn't John see? No, I know he didn't. He didn't even look into this. That they totally raided his house. You can see the video online. Basically, the National Police of Romania, where he lives, came in there and went through everything. He was actually immediately released when he was first raided, but then it very much seems to be, just like in many of these cases, we'll never really know because this stuff is done in secrecy behind closed doors by very powerful people. But it seems like they got leaned on by international pressure groups, aka probably the American government and NGOs and people that wanted to shut him down, because basically they don't want to have somebody like Tate that is up there, that whatever his tackiness may be, he's a 6'3", well-built ex-fighter. He was a high-level chess player as a kid. People can debate his level of fighting, but he did fight, I believe, almost 80 professional fights. And became a multi-millionaire. That's not my cup of tea. I do think it's tacky. And he's had a lot of good takes that I have broken down here. Many of them I don't agree with, but his takes on COVID, his takes on masculinity and responsibility. He's got several children. This cringe, he seems to dislike women. I have had this exchange many times with many females over the years, that if you speak candidly and honestly about the feminist paradigm, about the mass criminality that's been happening through the court system against men, about the terrible behavior in general of so many women today, right away, this exact same talking point will come out. Sounds like you're scared of women. Sounds like you hate women. So I said to a woman a few years ago, when I was still trying to do some online dating, when she says this. So let me get this straight. Let's put your logic to the test here. If I hate women, but I'm on an online dating site trying to date you, so I guess it would be that if I hate you, I'm not really trying to date you. This isn't in good intention. So I guess I'm just trying to get you into a position where I could abuse you, berate you, etc. And that's the man that you're choosing? Right? You didn't pick up on any of that. Basically, I have some kind of like psychopathic tendencies. Do you not think that me being on a dating app and trying to have a conversation with you and just sharing my opinions might kind of show proof that I don't hate women at all and actually I like women. I'm trying to get with a woman. Of course they know it's all bullshit, just like he knows it's all bullshit. Right? There's no evidence at all that a man that has children with many women, that's been on record many, many times and shown it with his actions, that you should provide for and take care of women, that has actually got himself into trouble because of his womanizing, because how much he likes to be around women. For this man here, Mr. Griffin, to paint this as some kind of misogyny, any man, as I said on my post here, that is still using this term, misogyny, has got to be laughed out of public discourse. There is no misogyny at any measurable level in Western society. But beyond serial deleters, mass essayers, or serial essayers, habitual female abusers, it doesn't exist. This society bends over backwards to please women, to pedestalize women. It has literally hundreds of programs that benefit women and only women. All the men's organizations have been sued to allow women in. Grants, social programs, academia, all of history has basically been rewritten from standpoint feminism to benefit women. This is a joke that you would even use this terms of like, no serious man can even use this term anymore of misogyny. So Candace Owens also, if you're not in the know, but every man needs to be in the know. She did a whole series and brought Harvey Weinstein up on camera of showing what bunk his case is. Same as Andrew Tate. It's not an endorsement of Harvey Weinstein. He was a total scumbag without a doubt, a total cretin. He admits it. He owns it. But if you look at the actual details, as any logical masculine man should, understanding of what they're putting into legal precedents where they're suspending all Western jurisprudence, is that what I said? Freudian slip there for sure. So they can hang men out to dry. This is why this has to be pushed back upon. Okay? We can't be like little children here getting triggered on accusations and somebody was mean to somebody or somebody did some things that you might think are inappropriate. That's a totally gynocentric way of looking at things. And it is why things are the way they are. This is why we have the state of affairs, John, that you say that you want to turn around. Okay? If you're not familiar, go and take a look at Harvey's case. This is out of 100. So he goes on, once again, he believes that Andrew Tate trafficked children. Well, in Harvey's case, I do believe the number was 103. I might not have that completely correct. But he had 103 official accusers that prosecution looked at. And they brought 3 of them up on trial. One of them, if you go and look at this, I might not have every detail correct, but to my recollection, as Candace says, and as he says, they couldn't even credibly put her in the same place at the same time of when the so-called assault or assaults happened. And the coup de grace case that really put him away was a girlfriend of many years. The incident in question supposedly happened 5 years prior to the trial, and in those 5 years after, his defense literally had reams and reams of text messages, emails, all kinds of other hard evidence of her professing her love for him, her taking international trips with him, like I believe to France, maybe to the French Riviera, accepting gifts from him. And they literally brought on a female, small hat, expert in essay to testify on the stand that this was completely, totally rational behavior of trauma from a woman that had been essayed from years before. You see how completely nuts that is? This is completely, totally nuts. People don't even know about this. Give credit to Candace. She looked into it and saw how crazy this is. This is the insanity that homeboy here is backing with this statement. I am not a fan of men who traffic children. Show us the evidence of him trafficking children. Real evidence. How come he ain't in jail? These accusations are going on 4 years now. He was put in jail for 3 years. 3 months in Romania. Then on house arrest, I think, for like over a year. Of course, John, well, they're still They're still going through the evidence. They're still bringing charges. He'll take the whole feminist line, I'm sure. That's so hard for these women. They've been so traumatized, etc. Give me a break. This is just bunk. Once again, it's not. There's nothing rational about this. Now, there is something completely rational. If you see a guy that's standing up that's basically saying, these women are out of control, feminism is out of control, masculinity is good, learn to be a fighter, learn to be resilient, learn to get up and doing what is necessary every day, whether you feel like you're depressed or not depressed, stay in your physical fitness, make some money, be stoic, right? And don't be scared to call these women out, and don't take it. That's in a nutshell, putting aside Tate's cringe, is what his message has been. He goes viral all over the place. There's stories, credible stories everywhere of all over the Western world of these kids sharing his videos and his memes and showing them to female teachers when they try to get lippy and condescending with these kids, and they lost it. They're no, we can't have this. Of course they can't have this. Because as Tate talks about very eloquently, like I said, there's a lot of things about Tate I don't like, but he's had some really good breakdowns. You can't accuse the guy of having a low IQ, definitely not a verbally low IQ. As he broke down in great detail several times, especially with the C agenda of 2020, of how if these people are looking to turn us into slaves, which all evidence basically shows us that they are, with the resetting of the petrodollar, going digital, the Peter Thiel, Palantir, Panopticon, who is going to push back on that? Who always has pushed back on that? It's men. Not only is it just men or males, it is stoic, strong, aware, uncompromising, masculine men that do it. They're always the ones that the powers that be have to be afraid of. Always. And what better way to get them off guard is to turn them all into a bunch of women and make them supplicate and think them that they're villains of all time and listen to this unhinged feminist agenda that's going everywhere. They can't have that. They absolutely can't have that. So it makes complete total sense that you're going to smear a guy. How many times do we have to see this being done? This man here, Mr. John Griffin, is not no kid in any way, shape, or form. Take a look at him. He doesn't know this. He hasn't seen this. I'm going to get into it a little bit more in just a little bit about what he's revealed in his videos about himself personally, but especially him personally, what it seems to be, what we can extrapolate of what he probably does for a living or who he rubs shoulders with. If he hasn't seen this up close and personal firsthand, nobody has. So there's no excuse that he'd be saying this. No excuse, and it has to be called out. Better Bachelor here. The only reason I have him up is that he has covered another case just recently of this is in Great Britain. It just got adjudicated where a young woman was given 2 years in prison for accusing another man of SA. I have here, anybody watching this, if you want this, I'm going to keep on adding to it. I'd like to make a master list because this has to be, this slander of going back here of false accusations against men and the corollary of them just being intimidated, misogynistic, etc. It needs to be buried 6 feet under. It's got to go away. Okay, and we got to go against it full. Oh, got ahead of myself. We got to go against it with both barrels all the time. Here I collect these. Okay, I'll just go down it slowly. False accusations, because people will say this constantly. Oh no, this is 2% of claims. It doesn't really happen. Believe all women, etc., etc., etc. Not true in the least. Okay, and I catch a very small fraction of what gets into the mainstream media. But recently, I'm making a commitment to be more diligent about it. Okay, of how many these are. And these are the ones that actually become whole profile. And many of these, if you go through them, you'll see that they're astonishing, of women that have gotten away with this repeatedly for many years with no evidence, and men are locked up. It's a bad state. I'm mumbling here. So anyway, Better Bachelor, I added that to the list. This was zero accusation. A woman is kicked out of a cab for being belligerent and drunk, is on the side of the road barefoot. He wants to be a good Samaritan, picks her up, takes her home. She accuses him of gang SA with two other men. Luckily, he recorded his interaction. He was, like so many of these men, could you imagine this happening to you? Thrown in jail, I think for 30 hours first. Took him months to be exonerated. Finally, she's getting 2 years. That's it. When he could have got, what, 25 years, 30 years? Had his life completely, totally ruined? This is just the latest in so many. Here's another latest one. This guy here. Just happened to come across his channel. This is really worth a watch. And this aspect, in my opinion, says so much that he's going to break down here and show you the overwhelming evidence that everything this girl is saying against him is just completely, totally fabricated. But she had, this is the chutzpah, to go on high visibility, high profile podcasts and make these things up with obviously no fear of retribution or consequences towards them. It's not like these things are just whispered and maybe insinuated. He just exonerates her. And let's see what comes of this. Look into it. These are happening in real time, constantly, against men. Okay? This is another great example. I'd like anybody to, give me a comment here or two if you wish. Have you seen this guy's case? If you want to talk about, but he was found guilty. But there's evidence. But it's gone to a court of law. Watch this video of Daniel in the Den. Very high-profile case that I think was adjudicated in 2016 of this cop in Oklahoma City, Daniel Holtzclaw, that was put away for 260 years on 13 counts, I believe, with 8 different women. It's astonishing the lack of evidence that they have against this man. They even have evidence that will be shown in here that is evidence that completely, totally exonerates him. A ton of evidence. And he got thrown away for 216 years. Just to show, for those that would say, but look at all of this quote-unquote evidence against somebody like Andrew Tate. Look at all the quote-unquote evidence against Daniel Holtzclaw and what happened in his trial. And you tell me, looking at this fairly, if you think there's any way in hell that this man got a fair trial, then I would say, if you would say he would, you're just completely checked out. You can see there's 20,000 comments on here, and over 90% of them, I've gone through them, are saying the same thing. That this is horrifying that this can happen to somebody. 1.9 million views. This is not unsupported. Let's put it that way. This is not unsupported. But to wrap it up, to not make this too long, that's about the long and short of it. Going back to Mr. Griffin here himself. So he has shared that he's in Virginia, and then he shared some of his dating stories that it sounds very much like, I'd put good money on it, that he is doing dating in the metro DC area. It's very well known that this is a far left, we could even say radical area, right, filled with leftists. Obviously, the gynocentric mindset is going to completely dominate. And I've watched a couple of his videos recently of him talking about his dating stories, not very good dating stories, after his divorce in that area. Now, I'm not trying to be disrespectful to Mr. Griffin in any way, shape, or form, but I'm going to speak the truth about this and about who is out here pushing these narratives that are very damaging to us, that are purporting to be for men and for wanting to turn this around. Okay? Because as I said in my comment, if you want to read it, when he just gave a one-line slanderous rebuttal against Andrew Tate, I don't really see you, Mr. Griffin, as being a great paradigm inspiring these kids of masculinity with your kind of high-pitched, nasally, supplicating, limp-wristed persona. I just don't, brother. And that would be backed up by what a perceptive person, a discerning person, can extrapolate from your videos and the reality that you participate in. So I'm going to have to assume you're probably somewhere around my age, mid-50s, late 50s, maybe up into your 60s. You got divorced a few years ago. Then you talk about going back on these dating sites. And he breaks it down about, these women that he's going to these bars with. He's listening to live music. And then he broke down one where at least a couple, I can't recall exactly, but at least a couple, maybe 3 of them, of these women actually acting quite unhinged. One of them sounds like he dated for a few months, and she acted quite unhinged and controlling several times before he finally broke it off. Okay, so this is the point. Men, don't be putting up with that at all. There's no reason for that, especially if you're men at our age that have been in these spaces for a while. Okay, there's no point in that. You don't need to be... I'll tell you what, Andrew Tate wouldn't be putting up with that for a minute, and nor should he, nor should any self-respecting man. For what, a piece of tail? To be running around like an 18-year-old, going to concerts and to bars and, going out to the coffee shop, and what are you doing? Pottery classes. Get on your game. Do something masculine. Quit running around like a teenage girl. Okay, now, you're running around like a teenage girl. He talks about on these dates about going to, I think, museums and events. That sounds like the Metro Washington area. Okay. I think he talked about one woman that was, the one, I think, if I remember correctly, that he dated for a few months, that acted totally unhinged, that she had several degrees, maybe even a couple of master's degrees, very high earner, etc., very well put together, that he's running around and going to this. So just think about that. Just think about that for a minimum. What is this reality? You think running around with these high-powered boss women in the Washington area that we know it's replete with, that these aren't going to be the talking points? Right? The completely, totally accepted talking points of Andrew Tate and anybody else in the manosphere, anybody else in red pill talking points. They're just a bunch of misogynists. And these are the women that you're trying to date and please, and you put up with their emasculating behavior? Is this not feminism? You want to talk about Life 2.0, John? This is Feminism 2.0. That's exactly what it is. That's why you're going to have this attitude that you do where you won't even look into it and just take all the Washington, D.C. I can imagine how many of these parties that homeboy's going to, how many events that he's going to, with all of these boss babes that he's trying to grovel to get some tail from, that this is the buzz about everybody. About who? Daniel Holtzclaw? About all of these cases here that are later dropped, that everybody says, look at the misogyny, look at the our culture that we live in, etc. And homeboy over here, because he's trying to get some tail, is going to be over there nodding his head like a little puppy dog. Yeah, you bet. We better turn it all around, and give an example of healthy masculinity. So what would that healthy masculinity be? I'll tell you what it's going to be. Throwing people like Andrew Tate under the bus. Throwing people like me under the bus if I ever run afoul of a female. Throwing any of you under the bus so he can get some tail based on some hysterical accusation with no evidence behind it. That's the point. You need to do better, John. This is ridiculous. You've been put on blast. We're going to keep on putting y'all on blast. I'm going to wrap it up with this. This is just for shits and giggles. This is what it is. This is traitorous behavior. Read them. A nation can survive. These are very well known, of course. I'm not saying anything original here. Didn't have to search too far for these. They just came into mind. A nation can survive its fools and even the ambitious, but it cannot survive treason from within. An enemy at the gates is less formidable, for he is known and carries the banner openly. But the traitor moves amongst those within the gate freely. His sly whispers rustling through all the alleys, heard in the very halls of government itself. That's exactly the point, John. You're supposed to be for men. Okay? Not asking you to blanketly endorse anybody about anything. But if you won't even take a look at the facts on the ground, which you obviously haven't, because even Candace Owens, whether you like it or not, even Andrew Tate's ex-girlfriends are on record talking about how ridiculous all this is. And when you look into the actual facts of what he's being accused of and hasn't had his day in court, you want to say a man is guilty of trafficking children. Is there anything more heinous to accuse a man of? No, there's not. Do better. That's the vid. Okay, a little addendum here onto the video. I made this video a few days ago, hadn't uploaded it yet, and actually, after thinking on it for a bit, I wanted to redo it and just tweak a few things. So I went to go to Mr. Griffin's channel to bring up the original video again to react to, and it looks like, lo and behold, he has taken it down. Of course, I have no idea for sure as to why he's taken it down, but I just really suspect that he probably got pushed back in the same way that I was pushing back, and it wasn't going to be a good look for him. So he took it down. But unfortunately for him, I've got evidence recorded about what his stance was. Interesting. But while I'm doing this is some of the here's another excellent example of the point I was trying to make about the behavior of Mr. Griffin. This is a channel here called The Lungs of Faith. I believe this is his most recent video. Let's listen to what he has to say here, and then I'll give my take.
While being trained to distrust the traits required to produce them. One of the most jarring examples of the shift is recorded in our media outcomes. In the 1980s, actors like Mel Gibson, Sean Connery, Tom Cruise, Richard Gere, and Brad Pitt were ranked as the most attractive men by young women. They all happen to be traditionally masculine men with rugged and unkempt looks, playing action star roles heavily associated with leadership, danger, and risk-taking. Fast forward to 2025, where females were asked to pick who the most attractive men are. Guys like Pedro Pascal, Timothy Chalamet, and the current sexiest man alive, who was Jonathan Bailey, who made history as the first openly Skittles recipient of the title. So get this. The most attractive man, according to women in 2025, is Skittles. Someone who isn't even attracted to women. Let that sink in. And it gets even worse when you look at the characters they portray.
And they're going to have you introduce yourself.
Let's see your nails first.
Oh, yes, of course.
They're very
like?
nice. Yeah, they're very beautiful. You're welcome.
Pedro Pascal has even taken on the title of Daddy of the Internet, which is a title he happily accepts.
Daddy is a state of mind, you know what I'm saying? I'm your daddy.
And women are depicted as going crazy for him. Female Reddit commenters answer the question of what makes him so attractive, citing reasons like his openness and that he feels safe.
I want people to be safe and to be protected, and I want very much to live on the right side of history.
All right, that's enough. I'm sure you get the point, right? You hear this guy here. I wasn't even familiar with these guys. I don't pay attention to them, but it makes complete and total sense. This is what's now being reframed commonly as masculinity for women. You hear them talking about being on the right side of history and being safe. Don't you think that these men would have all the same talking points about Andrew Tate, etc.? And this guy's, is this the guy, or was it one of the other guys that is a member of the Skittles community? The most masculine man, according to women nowadays, is a flamer. Since he made that video, Mr. Griffin, let's look at some of his other content that he's put up here recently. Break free. Men are finally waking up to this trap. Female validation. I mean, the irony is so thick, it's just astounding. Here's his latest one. Let's be friends. Life 2.0, skip marriage, choose friends with benefits. So as I broke down, I think there's a lot of evidence that this guy lives in an extreme little area, in a dating pool, with middle-aged boss women that act extremely controlling and toxic, that he's going to obviously have to act very much like these men right here to win their affection and be able to get into their pants, which he literally talked about in one of his videos. That in the beginning with one of these women, he saw some toxic behaviors from her, but he was like, well, you know, yeah, I know she's going to be a little bit off-putting, but maybe I can put up with it, you know, just to be able to have some hookups. So in other words, you're completely going out of frame to be able to get validation from women. And here we are, men are finally waking up to this trap, female validation. And this is a massive, massive percentage of the so-called masculine men in the manosphere. They come at things like this. So anyway, that's the addendum there. I just thought it was very interesting that the video is down. Like I said, I can't know exactly. Maybe he takes videos down all the time because he didn't like them for production reasons, something as such. I'll kind of keep an eye on this channel and see if that's the case, or if this is just one video where he had an extremely bad take that exposed him completely. And he got pushback on it, so he basically had to take it down. We'll see, but I'm going to upload this here shortly. I'm going to send it on to him and see if I get any traction out of it. That's the vid.